Stoicism, founded in Athens by Zeno in the early 3rd century BCE, has experienced a remarkable resurgence in the modern world. This ancient philosophy isn't merely a theoretical framework, but a practical guide to living a meaningful, resilient, and virtuous life. The Stoics, including Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, offered timeless wisdom that remains profoundly relevant in our chaotic, uncertain world. The essence of Stoicism lies not in detachment from emotions as commonly misunderstood, but in developing a rational relationship with them. It teaches us to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot, to cultivate inner strength, and to find serenity amidst life's inevitable challenges. This comprehensive guide presents 20 foundational Stoic rules distilled from the teachings of the great Stoic philosophers. Each rule offers practical wisdom that, when applied consistently, can transform your perception, responses, and ultimately your life. These principles are not quick fixes, but pathways to profound personal growth that unfold gradually through dedicated practice. Whether you're navigating professional challenges, personal relationships, or existential questions, these Stoic principles provide an ethical compass and psychological toolkit for living with greater wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The 4 cardinal virtues of Stoicism. Let us begin our journey into these timeless teachings that have guided countless individuals through the centuries. Rule 1. Focus only on what you can control. Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. Epictetus. The dichotomy of control. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies one fundamental principle: the dichotomy of control. This teaching, most clearly articulated by Epictetus in his Enchiridion, divides all things into 2 categories: those within our control and those beyond it. Within our control are our judgments, voluntary actions, desires and aversions, mental attitudes and responses. Beyond our control are external events, other people's actions and opinions, our reputation, wealth and possessions, health and physical circumstances, the past and future. This distinction may seem simple, but its implications are profound. When we invest our energy in controlling the uncontrollable, we invite frustration, anxiety, and disappointment. By focusing exclusively on what we can control, our perceptions, decisions, and actions, we reclaim our power and cultivate inner peace. Historical context. This principle wasn't merely theoretical for the Stoics. They lived it through tremendous hardships. Epictetus was born a slave and suffered a disability. Seneca faced exile and eventually forced suicide. Marcus Aurelius led Rome through plague and constant warfare. Yet through focusing on what they could control, they maintained equilibrium and even flourished. Practical application. To apply this principle. Morning reflection. Begin each day by identifying what aspects of your upcoming challenges are within your control and which aren't. Response inventory. When upset, ask, what aspect of this situation can I influence? Then direct your energy accordingly. Language shift. Replace phrases like I have to, or they make me feel with I choose to, or I feel, to acknowledge your agency. Desire examination. When wanting something, ask whether its fulfillment depends entirely on you. If not, hold the desire lightly. Modern example. Consider 2 colleagues facing the same corporate restructuring. The first spends weeks anxious about potential outcomes, spreading rumors, and lamenting the company's decisions. The second acknowledges the uncertainty, but focuses on delivering excellent work, updating her resume, and maintaining helpful professional relationships. When layoffs occur, both are equally affected, but their experiences differ dramatically. The first has suffered twice, once in anticipation and again in reality. The second faces the challenge with resilience, having already directed energy toward constructive responses. By focusing only on what you can control, you don't eliminate life's difficulties, but you do eliminate unnecessary suffering and position yourself to respond effectively to whatever comes. Rule 2. Practice negative visualization. He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. Seneca. The practice of premeditatio malorum. Negative visualization, or premeditatio malorum, premeditation of evils, might seem counterintuitive in our positivity-obsessed culture. Yet the Stoics recognized that contemplating potential adversities, from minor inconveniences to profound losses, builds resilience and enhances appreciation for what we have. This practice involves regularly imagining scenarios, such as losing material possessions, experiencing career setbacks, facing illness or disability, losing loved ones, confronting your own mortality. The purpose isn't to induce anxiety, but to diminish it. By mentally rehearsing difficulties, we reduce their shock when they occur and develop confidence in our ability to withstand them. Historical context. Seneca, advisor to Emperor Nero, practiced negative visualization despite his wealth and status, perhaps because he understood how precarious such advantages were. His foresight proved valuable when he later faced exile and was eventually forced to commit suicide at Nero's command. The Roman Stoics lived in turbulent times when fortunes could change overnight. Their practice of negative visualization wasn't pessimism, but pragmatic preparation for life's realities. Practical application. To incorporate negative visualization. Daily contemplation. Spend 3 to 5 minutes each morning or evening imagining the loss of something valuable, your home, job, health, or a relationship. Gratitude catalyst. After each visualization, acknowledge the renewed appreciation for having these things now. Preparation trigger. Use the exercise to identify concrete preparatory actions, e.g., after visualizing computer failure, backup important files. Perspective practice. When upset by minor inconveniences, visualize far worse scenarios to restore proportion. Modern example. A successful entrepreneur practices negative visualization by regularly imagining her business failing, key employees leaving, or market conditions changing dramatically. Rather than making her anxious, this practice prompts her to create contingency plans, helps her identify vulnerabilities before they become problems, keeps her grateful during prosperous periods, prevents complacency and promotes innovation, develops psychological preparation for setbacks. When a global economic downturn actually affects her business, she navigates it with relative calm, having already confronted the possibility in her mind and prepared accordingly. By practicing negative visualization, you don't attract misfortune, but develop the mental fortitude to face it when it inevitably arrives. Paradoxically, this practice also deepens your appreciation for the present moment. Rule 3. Accept what happens as if you had chosen it. Don't seek for everything to happen as you wish it would, but rather wish that everything happens as it actually will. Then your life will flow well. Epictetus. The power of amor fati. Amor fati, love of fate, represents one of Stoicism's most transformative attitudes. This principle doesn't merely advocate passive acceptance of circumstances, but an active embrace of reality as it unfolds. The Stoic doesn't just tolerate what happens, but welcomes it as necessary and good. This stance requires a fundamental shift in orientation, from fighting reality to working with it, from why me to what's this for, from victim mentality to creative response. The essence of this principle is recognizing that resistance to immutable reality creates suffering, while acceptance liberates your energy for constructive action. Historical context. Perhaps no one embodied this principle more fully than Epictetus. Born into slavery and crippled either by his master or from birth, he had every reason to rage against fate. Instead, he developed a philosophy centered on accepting circumstances while focusing on inner freedom. Similarly, Marcus Aurelius, despite the burdens of imperial responsibility, wrote repeatedly about accepting difficult people and situations as natural parts of existence. Practical application. To practice amor fati, reframing challenges. When facing difficulties, ask how is this an opportunity, rather than why is this happening. The reversal method. Identify specific benefits that have come from past adversities to build trust in the potential value of current challenges. As if chosen reflection. When countering an immutable situation, mentally rehearse the phrase, I choose this, to shift from resistance to acceptance. Nature alignment. Regularly contemplate how your circumstances fit within natural processes to reduce the sense of being personally targeted by misfortune. Modern example. Consider someone diagnosed with a chronic health condition. Initial reactions might include denial, anger, and self-pity, all forms of resistance that compound suffering. A Stoic approach would involve accepting the diagnosis without adding judgments about fairness, focusing on aspects still within control, treatment adherence, lifestyle adjustments, finding meaning and growth opportunities within the constraint, using the condition as a catalyst for reprioritizing values. One real-life embodiment of this principle was neurologist Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps and later wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. By accepting what happens as if you had chosen it, you transform from fate's victim to life's creative partner." This doesn't mean abandoning efforts to improve circumstances, but rather eliminating the wasted energy of emotional resistance while you work with reality as it is. Rule 4. Turn obstacles into opportunities. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. The obstacle is the way. This Stoic principle transforms our relationship with challenges. Rather than seeing obstacles as unfortunate barriers to our goals, we can recognize them as the actual path to growth, innovation, and distinction. Every obstacle presents an opportunity to develop previously untapped strengths, find creative solutions, differentiate ourselves through resilience, deepen our character, discover unexpected paths forward. The essence of this approach isn't blind optimism, but pragmatic creativity that extracts value from every situation, regardless of its initial appearance. Historical context. Marcus Aurelius wrote the words above during the immense challenges of his reign, including war, plague, and betrayal. As emperor, he couldn't avoid these problems, so he transformed them into opportunities for demonstrating wisdom and virtue. This approach has historical precedent beyond Stoicism. The ancient Greeks had a concept called metis, a form of practical intelligence that thrives in challenging situations. This wily wisdom converts obstacles into advantages through resourcefulness and strategic thinking. Practical application. To transform obstacles into opportunities. Objective perception. When facing a challenge, strip away emotional reactions and describe the situation in neutral factual terms. Creative questioning. Ask empowering questions like, "How can I use this?" rather than disempowering ones like, "Why did this happen?" Advantage inventory. For any obstacle, list at least 3 potential advantages or opportunities it presents. Historical perspective. Study how others have transformed similar obstacles into stepping stones, particularly in your field of interest. Modern example. Consider the entrepreneur who loses a major client representing 40% of company revenue. Instead of seeing only disaster, she recognizes the opportunity to diversify the client base, reducing future vulnerability. Uses the sudden availability of staff resources to develop a new service line she had been considering. Analyzes what led to the client loss and implements improvements to client relations. Approaches new prospects with lessons learned and a more compelling value proposition. 6 months later, her company has replaced the lost revenue and established a more sustainable business model with reduced dependency risk. Another example comes from the world of science, where countless breakthroughs have resulted from failures and accidents, from penicillin to pacemakers. The distinguishing factor was the scientist's ability to see opportunity where others saw only disappointment. By viewing obstacles as opportunities, you develop anti-fragility, actually becoming stronger through exposure to stressors and challenges. This approach doesn't eliminate life's difficulties, but transforms them from meaningless suffering into catalysts for growth. Rule 5. Practice voluntary discomfort. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" Seneca. The value of self-imposed hardship. Voluntary discomfort. Deliberately embracing difficult conditions that you could avoid might seem irrational in our comfort-maximizing culture. Yet the Stoics recognize profound benefits in regularly practicing mild forms of self-denial and exposure to hardship, building resilience against future difficulties, reducing anxiety about potential losses, weakening unhealthy dependencies on comfort, cultivating gratitude for ordinary conditions, developing confidence in your ability to endure. This practice represents psychological vaccination, exposing yourself to small doses of discomfort to build immunity against larger distresses. Historical context. The Stoics lived this principle consistently. Seneca, despite his wealth, regularly practiced poverty for several days each month. Cato the Younger often traveled without shoes and with minimal clothing, even in harsh weather. These weren't acts of asceticism for its own sake, but practical training for life's inevitable hardships. The practice has analogues in many wisdom traditions, from the Buddhist emphasis on non-attachment to various religious fasting practices. Modern psychology confirms its value through concepts like anti-fragility and exposure therapy. Practical application. Ways to practice voluntary discomfort include intermittent fasting or simplified eating, consuming only basic foods for a period, cold exposure, taking cold showers or brief winter walks without heavy clothing, convenience fasts, periodically abstaining from technologies, transportation, or services you normally rely on, comfort reduction, occasionally sleeping on the floor, working while standing, or foregoing climate control, financial simplicity, living on a significantly reduced budget for a week or month. The key is undertaking these practices deliberately and reflectively, not as punishment, but as training. Modern example. A successful executive practices voluntary discomfort by taking public transportation instead of her car once weekly, fasting for 24 hours monthly, camping with minimal gear several weekends yearly, occasionally working in uncomfortable settings without normal conveniences. When her company later faces financial difficulties requiring significant lifestyle adjustments, she navigates the transition with relative ease. While colleagues experience anxiety and resentment over lost comforts, she has already proven to herself that she can thrive with less. Similarly, someone who regularly runs in adverse weather builds both physical endurance and psychological hardiness. When life inevitably presents challenging circumstances, this person can draw on the self-knowledge that discomfort, while unpleasant, is entirely survivable. By practicing voluntary discomfort, you systematically reduce your fear of difficult circumstances, increase your adaptability, and develop deeper appreciation for life's ordinary pleasures. As Seneca observed, it is in times of security that the spirit should be preparing itself for difficult times. Rule 6. Remember your mortality. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. Seneca. The practice of memento mori. Memento mori, remember that you will die, may seem morbid to modern sensibilities, but the Stoics recognized that contemplating mortality provides extraordinary clarity and purpose. This practice involves regularly reminding yourself of life's finite nature to eliminate procrastination, clarify priorities, enhance appreciation for the present, remove fear of death through familiarity, diminish concern for trivialities, encourage authentic living. The key insight is that confronting mortality doesn't lead to nihilism or despair, but to a more meaningful and deliberate life. Historical context. Roman generals returning from victory would have a slave whisper memento mori in their ear during triumph parades. Reminder that glory is fleeting. Marcus Aurelius advised himself to think of the whole of existence, of which you're the tiniest part. Think of the whole of time, in which you've been assigned a brief and fleeting moment. This perspective helped the Stoics maintain equilibrium regardless of circumstance. Death awareness practices appear across cultures, from the Bhutanese, who contemplate death 5 times daily, to Mexican Day of the Dead celebrations, to the Buddhist Marasati, mindfulness of death meditation. Practical application. To practice memento mori, morning reflection. Begin each day by acknowledging it could be your last, asking, if this were my final day, would my priorities change? Evening review. And each day considering, if I had died today, would I be satisfied with how I lived? Decision filter. When facing important choices, ask, how would I decide if I knew I had 1 year to live? 1 month? 1 week? Symbolic reminders. Keep subtle reminders of mortality in your environment, perhaps an hourglass, a meaningful quotation, or a traditional memento mori symbol. Legacy contemplation. Periodically write your own eulogy as you would want it to be. Then assess whether your current trajectory aligns with those values. Modern example. A high-achieving professional had filled her life with impressive accomplishments but felt oddly empty. After her father's unexpected death, she began practicing memento mori, spending 10 minutes each morning contemplating her finite time. This practice catalyzed significant changes. She renegotiated her work schedule to spend more time with her children. She finally started the creative project she had postponed for some day. She repaired a long-standing rift with her sibling. She became more present and appreciative in ordinary moments. She stopped postponing experiences she had been saving for retirement. Her life became not only more aligned with her values, but also richer in meaning and satisfaction. By remembering your mortality, you strip away the illusion of unlimited time that fuels procrastination and compromise. As Epictetus noted, keep death and exile before your eyes each day, along with everything that seems terrible. By doing so, you'll never have a base thought, nor will you have excessive desire. Mortality awareness doesn't diminish life. It intensifies and clarifies it. Rule 7. Develop an internal scorecard. I have to die. If it is now, well, then I die now. If later, then now I will take my lunch, since the hour for lunch has arrived, and dying I will tend to later. Epictetus. The principle of internal evaluation. Central to Stoicism is the recognition that virtue, not external outcomes, is the only true good. This principle asks us to evaluate our success not by external metrics, wealth, status, recognition, but by internal standards. Did I act with wisdom? Did I maintain courage? Did I demonstrate justice? Did I practice temperance? When we judge ourselves by internal standards, we reclaim authority over our self-worth from the vagaries of fortune and the opinions of others. Historical context. The Stoics operated in societies obsessed with honor, reputation, and status, much like our own. Yet they consistently emphasized internal evaluation. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, wrote private reminders focusing on his character rather than his accomplishments. Epictetus, a former slave who achieved renown as a philosopher, taught that true freedom comes from distinguishing between internal excellence and external outcomes. This approach has parallels in Eastern traditions like the Bhagavad Gita's concept of nishkama karma, action without attachment to results, and Buddhism's emphasis on right intention over outcomes. Practical application. To develop your internal scorecard. Value identification. Clarify the virtues and principles most important to you, creating concrete definitions for each. Process goals. Set goals focused on behaviors within your control rather than outcomes, e.g., I will speak truthfully rather than I will win the argument. Evening examination. Conclude each day by evaluating your actions against your internal standards rather than external results. Outcome neutrality. Practice emotional equanimity toward successes and failures while maintaining commitment to excellence in your actions. Language shift. Replace phrases like I succeeded/failed with I acted virtuously/unwisely to emphasize the locus of value. Modern example. Consider two athletes preparing for competition. The first judges herself entirely on whether she wins medals. When she performs well, but places fourth due to exceptional competition, she feels like a failure. When illness affects her performance at a key event, she experiences crushing disappointment. The second develops an internal scorecard based on preparation, effort, strategy, sportsmanship, and resilience. While striving for victory, she evaluates herself primarily on these internal standards. After competition, regardless of the outcome, she can accurately assess her performance against her values. Over time, the first athlete experiences psychological volatility tied to factors beyond her control, while the second builds consistent self-respect and enjoyment of her sport independent of results. By developing an internal scorecard, you create a stable foundation for self-worth and motivation that remains intact regardless of external circumstances. This doesn't mean ignoring results. The Stoics were often high achievers, but rather recognizing that virtue expressed through proper action is the only outcome fully within your control and therefore the only appropriate basis for self-evaluation. Rule 8. Practice mindfulness. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic practice of prosok. Though we typically associate mindfulness with Eastern traditions, the Stoics emphasized a similar concept they called prosok, attention or focus. This practice involves continuous awareness of your thoughts and judgments as they arise, the distinction between impressions and reality, your automatic reactions to circumstances, the present moment rather than past or future. This attentiveness allows you to insert a crucial pause between stimulus and response, a space in which wisdom can operate. Historical context. The Stoics lived in busy, politically charged times, not unlike our own. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of retreating into the inner citadel of the mind amid the chaos of imperial responsibilities. Epictetus emphasized that the beginning of philosophy is awareness of the contradictions between how we think and how we act. While lacking modern psychological vocabulary, the Stoics recognized what we now understand about cognitive biases, automatic reactions, and the difference between experiencing emotions and being controlled by them. Practical application. To practice Stoic mindfulness. Morning preparation. Begin each day by anticipating challenging situations and setting intentions for mindful responses. Impression examination. When strong emotions arise, mentally name them. This is an impression of harm, not harm itself. Pause practice. Develop the habit of pausing briefly before responding to provocations, creating space for reason to intervene. Present focus. Regularly bring attention to your current activity, asking, "Is my mind right now? Is it where it needs to be?" Body awareness. Notice physical manifestations of emotions, muscle tension, altered breathing, as early warning systems for reactive states. Modern example. A manager in a high-pressure environment practices Stoic mindfulness by starting each day with 5 minutes of focusing on her breathing and setting intentions, creating brief pauses between meetings to reset her attention, mentally labeling reactive thoughts during difficult conversations. This is anger arising. Noticing when she's mentally rehearsing future conversations or replaying past ones, focusing completely on whoever is speaking rather than planning her response. When a crisis emerges, a major client threatens to leave after a service failure. She notices her initial panic without being consumed by it. This awareness allows her to respond with calm problem-solving rather than defensive reactivity, ultimately resolving the situation effectively. By practicing mindfulness, you develop what Epictetus called the discipline of assent, the ability to recognize impressions without automatically accepting them. This creates freedom from reactive patterns and enables responses aligned with your deepest values. As Marcus Aurelius advised himself, the things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts. Rule 9. Speak little but well. Let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in few words. Epictetus. The discipline of speech. The Stoics recognized that our words reveal and shape our character while profoundly impacting others. They advocated mindful communication characterized by truthfulness without unnecessary harshness, economy of expression, purpose rather than mere impression, questions before assertions, substance over rhetorical flourish. This approach reflects the Stoic emphasis on logos, rational discourse as a path to wisdom and virtue. Historical context. In ancient Rome, as in modern society, skillful rhetoric could bring fame and advancement. Yet the Stoics viewed excessive and careless speech as a serious vice. Epictetus regularly cautioned his students about trivial conversation. Be mostly silent or speak merely what is needful, and in few words. Zeno of Citium observed, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we say." This principle finds parallels across wisdom traditions, from Confucius's emphasis on careful speech to the biblical proverb. Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent. Practical application. To implement this principle, speech filtering. Before speaking, quickly assess whether your words meet at least one criteria. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it beneficial? Question cultivation. Replace statements with genuine questions whenever seeking to understand rather than assert. Pause practice. Develop comfort with conversational silence rather than filling it with unnecessary words. Listening focus. When others speak, listen to understand rather than to prepare your response. Simplicity preference. Express complex ideas in plain language rather than using unnecessary jargon or complexity. Modern example. Consider two colleagues in a contentious meeting. The first speaks frequently, interrupts others, shares opinions on every topic regardless of expertise, and uses language designed to impress rather than communicate. The impression created is one of insecurity masked by verbal dominance. The second speaks only on matters where she has knowledge, asks clarifying questions, acknowledges valid points from others, and expresses complex ideas simply. When she does speak, people pay attention because her contributions consistently add value. A tech executive known for thoughtful leadership implements this principle by waiting until others have spoken before offering his view, asking at least 2 questions before making assertions in discussions, eliminating filler words and circular phrasing from communications, declining to comment on matters beyond his knowledge. This approach earns him a reputation for wisdom and trustworthiness that elevates his influence beyond more verbose colleagues. By speaking little but well, you demonstrate self-control, earn credibility, and create space for deeper understanding. As Seneca noted, the abundance of books is a distraction. Similarly, an abundance of words often distracts from what truly matters. Quality of communication, not quantity, builds both wisdom and influence. Rule 10. Practice and display gratitude. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Epictetus. The Stoic approach to gratitude. For the Stoics, gratitude wasn't merely a pleasant sentiment, but a rational response to reality. They recognized that everything we enjoy is temporary and could be lost at any moment. What we have is not owed to us, but received as a loan from nature. Our very existence is improbable and therefore remarkable. Even difficulties contain benefits worthy of appreciation. This perspective doesn't deny life's challenges, but counterbalances our natural tendency toward hedonic adaptation and the not-enough mindset. Historical context. The Stoics lived in a time when disease, political upheaval, and sudden reversals of fortune were common. Their emphasis on gratitude wasn't naive optimism, but a deliberate cognitive practice for maintaining equanimity. Marcus Aurelius filled his meditations with expressions of gratitude, often listing specific people and the lessons they had taught him. Seneca advised regularly contemplating how life would be without our current blessings. This approach aligns with traditional wisdom from diverse cultures, from the Jewish practice of offering 100 blessings daily to Buddhist emphasis on appreciating life's impermanence. Practical application. To cultivate Stoic gratitude. Morning reflection. Begin each day identifying specific advantages you currently enjoy that you often take for granted. Gratitude interruption. When caught in complaint or desire, pause to identify 3 aspects of your current situation worthy of appreciation. Absence contemplation. Regularly imagine life without basic goods, health, loved ones, shelter, freedom, to refresh your appreciation for them. Adversity mining. When facing challenges, identify specific benefits or growth opportunities they present. Expressed appreciation. Regularly articulate gratitude to others, focusing on specific actions and their positive impact. Modern example. A woman practices Stoic gratitude by keeping a journal where she notes 3 specific things she's grateful for each evening. Mentally saying thank you for basic experiences throughout her day. The taste of food, the warmth of sunshine, the ability to move freely. When stuck in traffic, shifting from frustration to appreciation for having transportation, freedom of movement, and time to think. Explicitly thanking people for specific contributions that often go unacknowledged during a period of financial hardship. This practice helps her maintain perspective and emotional balance by focusing on the many non-material goods still available to her. Relationships, knowledge, natural beauty, and inner resources, rather than diminishing her motivation to improve circumstances. This gratitude actually enhances her resilience and problem-solving capacity. By practicing and displaying gratitude, you counter the cognitive bias toward dissatisfaction, while building resilience against life's inevitable setbacks. As Epictetus taught, he is wealthy who is content with what he has. Gratitude doesn't require exceptional circumstances, only exceptional attention to the value in ordinary reality. Rule 11. Embrace the view from above. You have the power to strip away many superfluous troubles located wholly in your judgment, and to possess a large room for yourself, embracing in thought the whole cosmos, to consider everlasting time, to think of the rapid change in the parts of each thing, of how short it is from birth until dissolution, and how the void before birth and that after dissolution are equally infinite. Marcus Aurelius. The cosmic perspective. The view from above is a meditation practice that involves mentally rising above your immediate circumstances to see them from progressively wider perspectives, from your city to your country, to the planet, to the cosmos. This practice helps diminish the seeming importance of petty concerns. Recognize your place within larger natural systems. Contextualize personal troubles within broader time scales. Shift from self-absorption to interconnection. Bring proportion to your judgments. The essence of this practice is not to trivialize human experience, but to see it clearly within its proper scale. Historical context. The Stoics were deeply interested in natural philosophy, science, and cosmology. Marcus Aurelius regularly reminded himself of his tiny place in the vast cosmos as an antidote to self-importance. This perspective influenced Stoic ethics. Seeing oneself as part of nature rather than separate from it created an orientation toward harmony rather than dominance. Modern astronauts report a similar psychological shift called the overview effect, a profound change in awareness from seeing Earth from space. Many describe increased environmental concern and a diminished sense of artificial boundaries after this experience. Practical application. To practice the view from above. Scale meditation. Regularly visualize zooming out from your current location to increasingly wider perspectives, noting how your concerns appear at each level. Temporal expansion. When troubled, imagine how your current situation will appear 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, and a century from now. Historical contextualization. Consider how many humans throughout history have experienced similar challenges to yours and have overcome them. Natural systems reflection. Contemplate your participation in natural cycles and systems that long preceded you and will continue after you're gone. Modern example. A professional facing a significant career setback practices the view from above by first acknowledging her immediate emotional response of disappointment and worry, considering how this event appears within the context of her entire career trajectory, reflecting on how common such setbacks are across all careers and throughout history, contemplating the insignificance of this single career event within her complete lifespan, expanding further to consider how brief any human life is within evolutionary timescales. This progressive expansion doesn't invalidate her feelings, but provides perspective that prevents catastrophizing and enables a more balanced response. She regains equilibrium more quickly and identifies constructive next steps rather than remaining fixated on the injustice or significance of the setback. By embracing the view from above, you develop what cosmologist Carl Sagan called the cosmic perspective, a viewpoint that shows us how to recognize that the significance of our lives and our individual concerns is measured not by their immediate emotional impact or by their contemporary political significance, but by their role in developing a world that can understand itself. The path of practical wisdom. The 20 Stoic rules outlined in this guide represent more than philosophical concepts. They offer a comprehensive approach to living with greater clarity, purpose, and resilience. These principles have endured for over 2 millennia not merely as theoretical constructs, but as practical tools that have guided countless individuals through personal challenges, professional demands, and existential questions. The wisdom of Stoicism lies in its recognition that the path to a good life isn't found in external circumstances or achievements, but in developing our essential human capacities: reason, virtue, and community. By focusing on what we can control, accepting what we cannot, finding opportunity in adversity, and maintaining perspective on life's inevitable fluctuations. We cultivate an inner citadel that external events cannot breach. Implementing these principles doesn't happen overnight. Like any profound transformation, it requires consistent practice, regular reflection, and patient perseverance. Begin with one or two principles that resonate most strongly with your current circumstances. Practice them deliberately until they become habitual. Then gradually incorporate others. The journey is progressive, not perfectionist. Remember that the Stoics themselves acknowledged the aspirational nature of wisdom. Even Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus saw themselves as progressing toward wisdom rather than having fully attained it. Each stumble becomes an opportunity to apply these principles more deeply. The reward for this committed practice is a life characterized by greater freedom from the tyranny of external circumstances, resilience in the face of adversity, clarity about what truly matters, tranquility amid chaos and uncertainty, purpose through alignment with our rational nature, connection through authentic relationships, integrity in all aspects of life. As you integrate these principles, you may find that the promised benefits of Stoicism, wisdom, virtue, and tranquility, aren't distant ideals but immediate experiences available whenever you align with your highest nature. In the words of Seneca, begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life. The wisdom of Stoicism isn't for some future time when conditions are perfect, but for this very moment, the only moment in which we can ever truly live and practice philosophy. May these principles serve you well on your journey toward practical wisdom. Further resources for those wishing to deepen their understanding and practice of Stoicism. Primary Stoic texts, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, the personal journal of the philosopher emperor, never intended for publication. Discourses and Enchiridion by Epictetus, practical Stoic teachings recorded by his student Arian. Letters from a Stoic and on the Shortness of Life by Seneca, accessible introductions to Stoic practice. Modern books on Stoicism, A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine. How to Be a Stoic by Massimo Pigliucci. The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Stephen Hanselman. Stoicism and the Art of Happiness by Donald Robertson. Online resources. Daily Stoic, dailystoic.com. Article, meditations, and courses on practical Stoicism. Modern Stoicism, modernstoicism.com. Organization that hosts Stoic Week and Stoicon events. Traditional Stoicism, traditionalstoicism.com. In-depth exploration of Stoic philosophy and practice. Practices and communities. Stoic Week, annual event where participants live like Stoics for 7 days. Stoicon, international conference on modern Stoicism. Stoic Fellowship, network connecting local Stoic communities worldwide. Remember that Stoicism is fundamentally a practical philosophy. Reading about these principles is only the beginning. Their true value emerges through consistent application in daily life.